The space station called Orbital 7 floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was old, built by a species that no longer existed, and now it belonged to everyone and no one. Traders came here. Diplomats came here. Criminals came here. If you wanted to meet someone from the other side of the galaxy, Orbital 7 was the place to do it. The station had seen many strange things in its long life, but nothing confused its residents quite like the humans. Walked through the main trading hall with her hands clasped behind her back. She was a small woman, barely reaching the chest of most alien species that passed her by. Her black hair was pulled back in a simple style, and she wore the gray uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps. Nothing about her looked special or dangerous. She smiled at everyone she passed, even the ones who did not smile back. Her assistant, a young man named, walked 2 steps behind her. He carried and tried to keep up with her steady pace, was new to this job. He had trained for years to become a diplomat, learning alien languages and customs and protocols, but nothing in his training had prepared him for ambassador. She never raised her voice. She never showed anger. She never threatened or demanded or pushed. She simply smiled and talked and listened, day after day, meeting after meeting. Did not understand how she did it. Today they were meeting with There were insects. Not like Earth insects exactly, but close enough that humans always thought of bugs when they saw them. They stood on 4 legs and had 2 arms that ended in sharp claws. Their bodies were covered in hard shells that could be brown or green or sometimes bright blue. Their heads had large eyes and clicking mandibles that never stopped moving. They were not friendly. They were not unfriendly either. They simply did not care about anyone except themselves. They took what they wanted and did what they pleased, and they thought this was the natural way of things. The strong take from the weak. That was the philosophy. For the past 6 months, ships had been attacking human cargo vessels. They called it salvage rights. They said that any ship too weak to defend itself had already given up its cargo. This was their law, and they expected the galaxy to accept it. Earth did not accept it. Earth sent. The meeting room was large and cold. They liked cold temperatures, so the humans had agreed to meet on their terms. Sat at one end of the long table. 12 sat at the other end, with their leader in the center. Was larger than the others, his shell a deep green color that showed his age and status. Sat beside, his fingers ready on He could see his breath in the cold air. Clicked his mandibles and spoke. The translator device in the center of the table turned his sounds into words. The human ambassador returns. Again, how many times is this now? 7, 8, 9, said pleasantly. I appreciate your continued willingness to meet with us. Willingness made a sound that might have been laughter. We meet because it amuses us. Your persistence is entertaining. The other clicked in agreement. I'm glad we can provide some entertainment, said, but I hope today we can also make progress. The attacks on our shipping vessels have increased. Last week alone, 3 ships were taken. The crews were left floating in escape pods. They were lucky we left them alive, said. We could have done otherwise. Yes, you could have, and we are grateful for that small mercy. But the cargo those ships carried was meant for colony worlds that depend on supplies from Earth. People are going hungry because of these attacks. Leaned forward, his large eyes reflected the cold light of the room. Then send bigger ships, send armed ships, defend yourselves. We are trying to find a peaceful solution. Peace, said the word like it tasted bad. Your species is obsessed with this concept. Peace, negotiation, compromise. These are the words of the weak. Did not react to the insult. Her expression remained calm, almost pleasant. We prefer to see them as the words of the wise. Wise stood up from his seat. He was tall, nearly 2 meters, and his shadow fell across the table. Let me tell you what is wise, human. The wise understand power. The wise understand that the galaxy does not care about fairness or kindness or your precious peace. The galaxy belongs to those strong enough to take it. He pointed one sharp claw at. Your species is soft. You sleep for 1/3 of your short lives. You feel pain so easily that a simple cut makes you cry out. You cannot survive in cold or heat without your machines. You are prey animals pretending to be predators. Felt anger rising in his chest. He wanted to say something, to defend his species, to tell this insect that humans had conquered their own world against terrible odds, but placed a gentle hand on his arm, stopping him. You may be right, she said too. Humans are indeed fragile in many ways. We know this about ourselves. Seemed surprised by her agreement. He sat back down slowly. So you admit your weakness. I admit that we are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the toughest or the longest lived. We know this. We have always known this. Paused and took a slow breath. But I wonder if you know something about us. What would that be? We did not become a spacefaring species by being strong. We became one by being stubborn. She smiled, and for just a moment something in that smile made skin prickle. We do not give up, ever. We will come to this table 9 times, 19 times, 90 times if we must. We will keep trying to find a peaceful solution until every possible option has been exhausted. Clicked dismissively, and when your options are exhausted, what then? Smile did not change, but her eyes did. The warmth faded from them, replaced by something older and colder. Let us hope we never have to find out. The meeting continued for another 2 hours. Nothing was resolved. The maid more insults and more demands, absorbed them all with the same patient smile. When the meeting finally ended, she stood and bowed politely to before leaving the room. In the corridor outside, finally let out his frustration. How do you do it? How do you sit there and let them insult us like that? Kept walking. Because anger is a tool, and you do not waste your tools on people who do not matter. But they do matter. They are attacking our ships. They are hurting our people. Yes, agreed, they are. So what do we do? Stopped walking. She turned to look at him, and again saw that strange coldness in her eyes. It was there for only a second before her warm smile returned. We keep trying, she said. We keep being patient. We keep offering them chances to do the right thing. And if they never take those chances? Did not answer immediately. She looked out a nearby window at the stars beyond, at the vast darkness of space, where human ships were being attacked by creatures who saw kindness as weakness. Then we stop offering, she said quietly. But that day has not come yet, so we smile, we talk, we wait. She started walking again and followed. Behind them, in the meeting room, was laughing with his subordinates about the foolish humans and their endless patience. They had no idea that patience was not the same as submission. They had no idea that the quiet woman who smiled at their insults was not weak. She was waiting, and somewhere deep inside her, something very old and very dangerous was keeping count. The news reached at 7 in the morning, station time. She was sitting in the small kitchen of the human embassy, drinking tea and reading reports from Earth. The morning had been quiet and peaceful, the kind of morning she had learned to appreciate during her years of diplomatic work. Then her communicator beeped, and everything changed. His face appeared on the screen. He looked pale and scared. Ambassador, something has happened, something bad. Tell me. They attacked another convoy last night, but this time they did not just take the cargo. He paused, struggling to get the words out. They took the crew, all of them, 15 people. Set down her teacup, hostages. Yes, they are being held in the lower levels of the station. They say they will release them only when Earth agrees to give up all claims to the shipping lanes in this sector. When did this happen? 6 hours ago. I just received word from our intelligence contacts. 6 hours. They had held human citizens for 6 hours and no one had told her. Felt something stir in her chest, but she pushed it down. Not yet. Not yet. Is there more? Nodded slowly. 2 of the hostages are children, a boy and a girl. They were traveling with their parents to one of the colony worlds. The room seemed to grow colder. Sat very still for a long moment, her hands flat on the table. She thought about those children, scared and alone in some dark holding cell. She thought about their parents, helpless to protect them. She thought about all the meetings she had sat through, all the insults she had swallowed, all the chances she had given. Ambassador's voice was worried. Are you all right? No, she said quietly, I am not all right. She stood up from the table and walked to the window. Outside, the station continued its slow rotation, indifferent to the small dramas playing out within its walls. Contact the delegation, she said. Tell them I want a meeting, 1 hour. Yes, Ambassador. What should I tell them about the nature of the meeting? Was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, softer, colder. Tell them I am getting annoyed. The message was sent. The translator drone processed the words and added them to its database of human expressions. Annoyed, minor irritation, low threat level. The drone did not understand that human words often meant more than their simple definitions. Received the message and laughed. The humans wanted another meeting. Of course they did. They always wanted to talk. They would talk and talk and talk while ships took whatever they wanted from human space. This was the way of weak species. They used words because they could not use force. But not everyone on the station shared confidence. In the eastern section of Orbital 7, far from the quarters, an old commander named heard about the hostage situation. There were large creatures, standing nearly 3 meters tall, with gray skin like stone and 4 arms that could crush metal. They were ancient warriors, and they had long memories. Had been alive for nearly 200 years. He remembered a time before humans joined the galactic community. He remembered watching from his ship's sensors as the humans fought wars on there. He remembered thinking that these small, fragile creatures were the most terrifying things he had ever seen. Not because of their strength, they were stronger. Not because of their weapons. Many species had better weapons. It was because of what humans did when pushed too far. Had watched humans burn their own cities rather than let enemies take them. He had watched them fight hopeless battles for years, refusing to surrender even when surrender was the only logical choice. He had watched them pick themselves up after devastating defeats and come back stronger, angrier, more determined. The humans had a word for it: spite. They would hurt themselves just to hurt their enemies. They would die just to take their killers with them. There was no logic in it, no reason. Just pure, burning stubbornness that refused to accept defeat. When heard that they had taken human children as hostages, he felt something he had not felt in a long time: fear. Clear the eastern quadrant, he told his subordinates. Sir, why? Because a storm is coming, and I intend to be far away when it arrives. They began to move their people out of the area near the delegation. They did this quietly, without explanation. Other species saw them leaving and wondered why, but no one asked. They were wise. If they were leaving, there must be a reason. In her quarters prepared for the meeting, she removed her gray diplomatic uniform and replaced it with simple black clothing. No badges, no symbols of office, just black. Watched her with growing unease. Ambassador, should I prepare the usual briefing materials? No. Should I contact Earth for instructions? No. Should I come with you to the meeting? Turned to look at him. Her face was calm, almost peaceful, but her eyes were wrong. They looked like the eyes of someone who had already made a decision and was just waiting for the rest of the world to catch up. I want you to stay here, she said. Whatever happens in the next few hours, I want you to remember something. What? We tried for 6 months, we tried everything. We talked, we negotiated, we compromised. We gave them every chance to be reasonable. She paused. Remember that, when people ask what happened here, tell them we tried. Felt cold. Ambassador, what are you going to do? She did not answer. She simply walked past him and out the door. The hour passed, made her way to the meeting room through corridors that seemed emptier than usual. Species who had nothing to do with the conflict were suddenly finding reasons to be elsewhere. Word was spreading through the station like a virus. Something was happening, something bad. Outside the meeting room, 2 guards stood watch. They clicked their mandibles as she approached. You are early, human. Yes, she said, I am. We'll see you when he is ready. I will see him now. The guards moved to block her path. You will wait. Looked up at them. She was so small compared to these creatures, so fragile and soft and breakable. Any one of them could have killed her with a single blow. Move, she said. Something in her voice made the guards hesitate. It was not loud or threatening. It was quiet, cold, final. One of the guards stepped aside. The other did not. He reached out a claw to push her back. Move, the guard screamed. When the door to the meeting room opened, looked up to see the human ambassador walking toward him. Behind her, in the corridor, one of his guards was on the floor holding a broken arm. The other guard was standing very still, as if he had forgotten how to move. Walked to the center of the room and stopped. You took our people, she said. You took children. Rose from his seat. Around him, his advisors and warriors began to stand as well, sensing danger. They are leverage, said. You would not listen to reason, so we gave you a reason to listen. When Earth agrees to our terms, they will be released. No. No. You will release them now. You will apologize. You will pay reparations for every ship you have taken, every life you have disrupted, and you will never attack another human vessel again. Stared at her, then he laughed. It was a horrible sound, like stones grinding together. Or what little human, What will you do? Write another report, send another message to your government, schedule another meeting. He spread his arms wide. We do not bow to prey. Was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. I have been patient with you. For 6 months, I have smiled at your insults and absorbed your cruelty. I have done this because I believe in peace. I believe that every conflict can be resolved with enough patience and understanding. She took a step forward, did not step back, but something in his posture changed. But there is a limit to patience. There is a line that should never be crossed. You took our children, you crossed that line. Your threats are meaningless. I am not threatening you, looked at him with those cold, dead eyes. I am giving you one final chance. Release the hostages now. Clicked his mandibles. No. Nodded slowly. Then I want you to remember something. What? We tried. She turned and walked out of the room, watched her go, confused and amused. He did not know that in exactly 6 hours, his world would end. The station's lights went out at exactly midnight. It happened all at once, without warning. One moment, the corridors of Orbital 7 were bright and busy. The next moment, everything was dark. Emergency lights flickered on, painting the walls in dim red, but in the section where the delegation had made their home, even those failed. Was in his quarters when it happened. He had been sleeping, dreaming of the human ambassador and her foolish threats. When the darkness came, he woke immediately, his warrior instincts screaming that something was wrong. Guards, he called out, report. No answer came. He tried his communicator, static. He tried the door to his quarters. It would not open. In the corridor outside, something was moving, could hear it through the door, soft sounds, footsteps, then a scream that was cut short before it could finish. Was afraid. He had not been afraid of anything in a very long time, but he was afraid now. In the darkness, with no weapons and no guards and no way to call for help, the great leader of the delegation felt like prey. The door to his quarters opened. Stepped inside. She was not alone. Behind her, in the dim red light of the corridor, could see shapes moving. Human shapes. They wore black armor and carried weapons that made no sound. Their faces were covered by masks that turned their eyes into glowing points of light. Hello, said. Her voice was the same as always, calm, pleasant, polite. What is this? Demanded. What are you doing? I told you I was getting annoyed. You did not listen. This is an act of war. No, shook her head slowly. This is a rescue mission. We are here for our people, nothing more. She stepped aside, and 2 of the armored humans entered the room. They moved toward with the smooth, practiced movements of professional soldiers. Before he could react, they had his arms pinned behind his back. Your guards have been disabled, said. All 40 of them. It took my team 11 minutes. Struggled against the humans holding him, but it was useless. They were stronger than they looked, much stronger. Impossible, he said. Humans are weak, everyone knows this. Yes, everyone knows this. Smile was cold. We have worked very hard to make everyone know this. It is useful when people underestimate you. She turned and walked out of the room. The soldiers dragged after her. The corridor was full of bodies. Warriors lay everywhere, unconscious or groaning in pain. None of them were dead, noticed. The humans had disabled all of them without killing a single one. This was somehow more terrifying than if they had simply slaughtered everyone. We could have killed them, said, as if reading his thoughts. My soldiers are trained for lethal combat, but I gave them different orders tonight. No deaths unless absolutely necessary. Why? Because I am still hopping, we can resolve this peacefully. She glanced back at him. I told you, I believe in peace. I will always try every other option first. And if the other options fail? Did not answer. They reached the lower levels of the station, where the hostages were being held. 2 more guards stood at the entrance to the holding cells. When they saw the humans coming, they raised their weapons. They never got a chance to fire. 2 of the human soldiers moved forward with impossible speed. One moment the guards were standing. The next moment they were on the ground, weapons clattering away, arms bent at wrong angles. The holding cell door opened. Inside, 15 humans sat on the cold floor. They looked scared and tired and hungry, but they were alive. When they saw the soldiers, they began to cry with relief. In the corner of the room, 2 children clung to their parents. The boy was maybe 8 years old. The girl was younger, perhaps 5 or 6. They stared at the armored soldiers with wide eyes. Walked past the soldiers and knelt in front of the children. Her cold mask dropped away, and suddenly she was just a tired woman with sad eyes. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is I'm here to take you home." The little girl reached out and touched face, as if checking to make sure she was real. "Are you a soldier?" the girl asked. "No, I am a diplomat, but tonight I am just someone who wants to help," stood and took the girl's hand. "Come, let's get you somewhere safe." The hostages were escorted out of the holding cells. Was forced to watch as his leverage walked away, surrounded by human soldiers who moved like ghosts. "This is not over," said. "The will not forget this insult. We will make your species pay." Stopped walking. She turned to face him one last time. "Let me tell you something about humans," she said. "We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We know this. We are not the fastest or the most advanced. We know this too." She stepped closer to him, until her face was just centimeters from his mandibles. "But we have something that your species does not understand. We have patience. We have control. We keep the dark parts of ourselves locked away because we know what happens when we let them out." Her eyes were cold again, colder than the vacuum of space. "For 6 months, I sat across from you and smiled at your insults. For 6 months, I swallowed my pride and my anger because I believed we could find a peaceful solution. I gave you every chance to be reasonable." She pointed at the unconscious guards, at the humiliated soldiers, at the empty holding cells. "This is what happens when we stop being patient. This is what happens when we stop giving chances. And this is just the beginning." Found that he could not speak. His mandibles clicked uselessly as he stared at the small human woman who had dismantled his entire delegation in a single night. "Go home," said. "Tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that humans tried to make peace. Tell them that we offered friendship and cooperation and mutual respect. And tell them that when we were pushed too far, we pushed back." She turned away from him and walked toward the exit, where the rescued hostages were waiting. "And if your leaders decide to seek revenge," she added without looking back, "remind them of something." "What?" "Tonight we chose to be merciful. We disabled your guards instead of killing them. We took back our people without spilling any blood." She paused at the door. "Next time we might not be so kind." She was gone then, disappearing into the darkness with her soldiers and the rescued humans. Was left standing alone in the ruins of his carefully planned operation. The lights came back on an hour later. Station security arrived to find the delegation in chaos. Every guard was injured. Every weapon had been destroyed. Every computer system had been erased. And in the center of it all stood frozen, still trying to understand how everything had gone so wrong so quickly. The answer was simple, but he did not want to accept it. He had mistaken patience for weakness. He had mistaken kindness for fear. He had looked at a species that smiled and talked and tried to make peace, and he had assumed they were unable to do anything else. He was wrong. And now, as the first ships began their panicked departure from Orbital 7, the rest of the galaxy was about to learn the same lesson. When a human says they are getting annoyed, you do not laugh. You run. The story spread like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every species on Orbital 7 knew what had happened. Within days, the story reached the nearest inhabited planets. Within weeks, it was being told in bars and meeting halls across the entire galactic sector. The details changed as the story traveled, as stories always do. Some versions said the humans had killed hundreds of warriors. Others said they had used secret weapons that drove their enemies insane. A few claimed that the human ambassador had single-handedly defeated in combat. But the core of the story remained the same. The humans had been patient. The humans had been kind. The humans had tried everything to find a peaceful solution. And when they were pushed too far, they had become something else entirely. The government issued a formal apology within 3 days of the incident. They paid reparations for every ship they had attacked, every cargo they had stolen, every crew member they had endangered. They established a permanent no-fly zone around all human shipping lanes, promising never to enter human space again. It was the fastest diplomatic victory in recorded history. Sat in a bar on Orbital 7, watching the news feed scroll across the screens above his head. He was drinking something called whiskey, which tasted like fire and metal and regret. It was the only drink strong enough to match his mood. A young alien sat down beside him. The creature was small and blue, with large eyes and a translator device clipped to its ear. It was one of the trading species that made its living moving goods between star systems. "You are human," they said, one of the diplomats. "I was an assistant," replied, "to Ambassador." "Ah," the ordered a drink of its own, something green and bubbling. "The famous, everyone is talking about her." "What are they saying?" "Different things. Some say she is a hero, others say she is a monster, most say she is both." The sipped its drink. "But there is one thing everyone wants to know." "What?" "Why did she wait so long?" The alien's large eyes studied with curiosity. "Your ships were being attacked for months. Your people were being hurt. Why did she not do something sooner?" Thought about the question for a long moment. He thought about all the meetings he had sat through, watching absorb insults with a patient smile. He thought about the cold look in her eyes when she learned about the hostages. He thought about the darkness in the corridors and the silent soldiers who moved like death itself. "Because that is what makes us human," he said finally. "We try everything else first. We negotiate. We compromise. We give second chances and third chances and fourth chances. We believe that every conflict can be resolved with enough patience and understanding. And when the patience runs out..." Looked at his drink. The whiskey burned in his throat, but it was nothing compared to the memory of that night. "Then we become something else, something we keep locked away most of the time." They found the key to that cage. They opened it and let out what was inside. There was quiet for a moment. "Your species is strange. You seem so soft, so gentle, but underneath, we are still the creatures who conquered our planet. We are still the animals who hunted and fought and survived against odds that should have killed us 1,000 times over." Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We have learned to be civilized. We have learned to control ourselves, but the old parts are still there, waiting." And they found those old parts. Yes, they pushed until the patience broke, and then they saw what humans really are. The story continued to spread. In the territories, old warriors nodded with grim satisfaction. They had always known the humans were dangerous. They had always suspected that the soft smiles hid something darker. The old commander who had evacuated his people before the incident became something of a celebrity. Other species wanted to know how he had predicted what would happen. His answer was always the same. "I watched them," he said. "For years I watched them. I saw how they treated their enemies with kindness even when kindness was not returned. I saw how they tried to make peace even when peace seemed impossible. And I knew that any species that worked so hard to be gentle must have a very good reason for doing so." "What reason?" Made the gesture for danger, a slow movement of all four arms that meant extreme caution was needed. "They are controlling something. Every smile, every kind word, every patient negotiation is them keeping something locked away. And when that lock breaks..." He shook his great head. "I have seen many wars, young one. I have seen species destroy each other in fire and blood, but I have never seen anything as frightening as a human who has stopped trying to be nice." The warning spread with the story. Soon, every species in the sector knew the new rule. When a human says they are fine, pay attention. When a human says it is okay, be careful. When a human says they are getting annoyed, you run. 6 months after the incident, received a promotion. He was now a junior diplomat in his own right, assigned to a small trading station on the edge of human space. It was not a glamorous posting, but it was a start. He kept in touch with through occasional messages. She had been transferred to a new assignment, something classified that she could not talk about. Her messages were brief and professional, but sometimes he caught glimpses of the woman he had known. "Remember what I told you," she wrote in one message. "When people ask what happened, tell them we tried. Tell them we did everything we could to find a peaceful solution. Tell them that violence was our last choice, not our first." Did tell people. He told them every chance he got. He wanted them to understand that humans were not monsters. They were not warlike species who enjoyed violence and destruction. They were just people who wanted to live in peace. But he also told them the other part, the part that mattered. "We will always try peace first," he told a group of alien traders one evening. "We will always give you chances to do the right thing. We will negotiate and compromise and bend over backward to find solutions that work for everyone. And if we refuse," one of the traders asked nervously. Smiled. It was a warm smile, friendly and open, the kind of smile that made people feel safe. Then you will learn why we try so hard to be peaceful, he said. You will learn what we are keeping locked away inside ourselves, and you will understand why the now refuse to even look at a human ship. The trader swallowed hard. What are you keeping locked away? Thought about that night on Orbital 7. He thought about the silent soldiers and the screaming guards and the cold look in his eyes. He thought about all the terrible potential that humanity kept buried beneath its smiles and handshakes and diplomatic protocols. Something old, he said quietly. Something that helped us survive when we should have died. Something that we have learned to control but can never truly eliminate. He finished his drink and stood to leave. Be grateful that you only see the kind version of us, he said. Be grateful that we work so hard to be nice, because the alternative is something no one in this galaxy wants to face. He walked away, leaving the traders to think about his words. And across the galaxy, the new rule continued to spread, passed down from species to species, from generation to generation, until it became as well known as the laws of physics themselves. When a human says they are getting annoyed, you run. Because the ones who did not run were no longer around to tell their stories. 3 years had passed since the incident at Orbital 7. The galaxy had changed in ways both small and large, and much of that change could be traced back to a single woman who had shown the universe what happened when patience ran out. Stood at the entrance to the Galactic Compact Assembly, the largest gathering of species in the known galaxy. She wore the white uniform of Earth's chief ambassador, the highest diplomatic rank her species could bestow. Her black hair was longer now, with touches of gray at the temples. Her face had a few more lines than before. But her eyes were the same, calm, patient, waiting. Stood beside her, now a full diplomat in his own right. He had been assigned to her staff when she received her new posting, and he had watched her work her particular brand of magic for 3 years. He had seen her turn enemies into friends, transform conflicts into partnerships, and build bridges where everyone else saw only walls. "Are you ready?" he asked. "I am always ready," she said. "That is the job." They walked into the assembly chamber together. The room was vast, designed to hold representatives from over 200 species. Seats rose in tiers around a central platform, filled with creatures of every size and shape imaginable. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no physical bodies at all, existing only as patterns of light and energy. And they were all watching. She walked to the central platform without hurrying. Every step was measured, every movement precise. When she reached the speaker's position, she turned to face the assembled delegates with that same calm expression she had worn in 1,000 negotiations. "My name is," she began. "I represent the species known as humans. I am here to talk about the future." A murmur ran through the chamber. Everyone knew her name. Everyone knew her story. The woman who had smiled at insults for 6 months and then dismantled an entire delegation in a single night. 3 years ago, something happened that changed how the galaxy sees my species. You have heard the stories. Some of them are true, some of them are exaggerated, but the core of what happened is simple enough to understand. She paused, letting the silence stretch. We were pushed too far. We stopped being patient, and we showed you what we are capable of when patience fails. In the back of the chamber, Old leaned forward in his seat. Beside him, a young diplomat shifted nervously. This was not the who had dealt with before, had retired in disgrace, never speaking of what happened that night for the rest of his life. "But I am not here to talk about that night," continued. "I am here to talk about everything that came before it, and everything that has come after." She spread her hands, a gesture of openness and peace. "Before the incident, I spent 6 months trying to negotiate with the 6 months of meetings and proposals and compromises, 6 months of being insulted and dismissed and ignored. And I did this because I believed then what I believe now, that every conflict has a peaceful solution if you are willing to work hard enough to find it." "You call what happened peaceful?" someone shouted from the upper tiers. The translator drones identified the speaker as a member of a species allied with the. "No," said. "What happened was not peaceful. It was a failure, my failure. I could not find the words to make them understand. I could not build the bridge that needed to be built. And because of that failure, violence became necessary." She looked directly at the speaker. "I regret that failure every day, not because of what happened to the. They made their choices and faced the consequences, but because violence is a defeat, not a victory. Every time we have to fight, it means we failed to find another way." The chamber was silent. This was not what anyone had expected. They had expected boasting, threats, a display of human power. Instead, they were getting something far more unsettling: honesty. "Humans have a saying," continued. "We say that you catch more flies with honey than vinegar. This means that kindness is usually more effective than cruelty. Cooperation is usually more productive than conflict. Peace is usually better than war." She smiled, and for a moment she looked like the warm, patient diplomat who had sat through countless meetings with endless grace. "We believe this. We believe it deeply. And that is why we work so hard to be kind. That is why we negotiate instead of demanding. That is why we offer friendship before we offer force." Her smile faded. "But make no mistake, our kindness is a choice. Our patience is a choice. We are not peaceful because we are weak. We are peaceful because we know what we are capable of, and we do not want to be that thing." In the back of the chamber made a low sound of agreement. He had said these exact words to anyone who would listen for 3 years. Now, finally, the humans were saying them themselves. "So this is my message to the Galactic Compact," said. "We want to be your friends. We want to trade with you, explore with you, build a future with you. We will meet you more than halfway. We will compromise and adapt and find solutions that benefit everyone." She paused. "But there are lines that should not be crossed. If you attack our people, we will respond. If you take our children, we will come for them. If you mistake our kindness for weakness, you will learn the truth in ways you will not enjoy." The chamber was absolutely silent. "This is not a threat," said. "It is a promise. And it is the same promise we have made to every species we have encountered. Treat us fairly, and we will treat you fairly. Push us too far, and you will see what we keep hidden beneath our smiles." She stepped back from the speaker's position. "Thank you for listening. I hope we can build something wonderful together, and I hope we never have to show you what happens when hope fails." She walked off the platform. Behind her, the chamber erupted in noise as hundreds of species began talking at once. Some were angry, some were scared, some were impressed. But all of them were paying attention. Outside the chamber, fell into step beside her. "That was quite a speech," he said. "It was the truth, nothing more." Some of them seemed frightened. Nodded. "Good. Fear is useful sometimes. It prevents conflicts before they start. If they are afraid of pushing us too far, they will not push at all, and we will never have to show them what lies beneath. And if they are not afraid—" Stopped walking. She looked out a nearby window at the stars beyond, countless points of light in the infinite darkness. "Then we will do what we always do," she said. "We will try everything else first. We will negotiate and compromise and bend. We will give them chances and opportunities and every possible reason to choose peace. And if they still refuse—" Turned to look at him. Her eyes were calm, patient, warm, but somewhere behind that warmth could see the cold light of something ancient and dangerous. "Then we will be very, very sorry," she said, "and so will they." She started walking again and followed. Behind them, the assembly continued to debate and discuss. But there was a new understanding in the room, a new respect mixed with a new caution. The humans were not what they seemed. The soft creatures with their smiles and handshakes were hiding something powerful and terrible, something they worked every day to keep locked away. And that effort, that constant choice to be kind when they could so easily be cruel, was perhaps the most impressive thing of all. Watched leave through the main doors. Beside him, the young diplomat let out a breath he had been holding. "She seems so gentle," they said, "so reasonable. Surely the stories about her are exaggerated." Made the sound of grinding stones, his species' version of laughter. "Young one, let me tell you what the humans understand that you do not. Kindness is not weakness. Patience is not submission. The humans are kind because they can afford to be. They are patient because they know what waits inside them if patience fails." He turned his great eyes toward the young. "The most dangerous creatures in the galaxy are not those who rage and threaten. They are the ones who smile and offer friendship and try, genuinely try, to find another way. Because when they finally stop trying—" He trailed off, watching disappear through the doors. The diplomat would remember that moment for the rest of his life. Not the words, but the way the old warrior looked at the small human woman with something very close to fear. And respect. And perhaps a little gratitude that she had chosen, once again, to offer honey. because the alternative was something no one in the galaxy wanted to taste. And that was how the rule became law, not through force or conquest, but through understanding. Every species in the Galactic Compact learned to read the humans carefully, to watch for the signs, to know when they were pushing too close to the edge. When a human smiled, you smiled back. When a human offered peace, you accepted. And when a human said they were getting annoyed, you ran. Because the ones who did not run had become the lesson. And lessons once learned are never forgotten.